Philadelphia, a city of quiet streets and church bells, hides shadows deeper than its history. A mother was stabbed in her van at dawn. A lover's body set ablaze in Fairmount Park. An innocent man gunned down outside a prison gate. And a woman buried inside her own couch. Each crime scene marked with blood, betrayal, and silence, each verdict echoing through decades behind steel bars. But justice, though served, cannot resurrect the lost. And this is Inside Philadelphia's Darkest Black Killers, Shocking Murders, and True Crime Documentary. Welcome back to Justice Reversed, where real crimes meet real justice. Number 1. Maurice Hill. Philadelphia's streets froze in chaos that August afternoon when an ordinary drug warrant turned into one of the city's longest and most violent police standoffs. Maurice Hill, a 36-year-old man with a long criminal history, opened fire on a team of narcotics officers attempting to serve a warrant at his North Philadelphia row home on the 14th of August 2019. What began as routine procedure erupted into a barrage of bullets that echoed across the Tioga neighborhood. Police said Hill used an assault rifle, firing more than 100 rounds before the first responders could take cover. 6 officers were struck by gunfire, and several others were injured as bullets tore through windows, walls, and parked cars. Inside the home, chaos unfolded. 2 officers and 3 civilians, individuals initially detained as part of the warrant, found themselves trapped for nearly 5 hours. Officer Joshua Burkett later testified that metal fragments from Hill's rifle struck his weapon and shredded his hand. "I thought I was going to die," another officer told the court. Outside, streets filled with tactical units, armored vehicles, and neighbors watching in disbelief as hundreds of rounds thundered through their community. Negotiators spent hours pleading with Hill, who picked up the phone but refused to speak. The tense silence broke only after his attorney, Shaka Johnson, managed to connect him with District Attorney Larry Krasner and Police Commissioner Richard Ross. As tear gas seeped through the house, Hill finally emerged just before midnight, hands in the air, head lowered, his clothes stained with sweat and dust. The trial that followed in May 2025 revisited those hours in detail. Prosecutors outlined Hill's record dating back to 2001, aggravated assault, gun possession, perjury, and escape. They argued his attack was deliberate, calling it a storm of bullets that could have ended dozens of lives. Hill's attorney, Ellis Palavides, countered that his client believed intruders were breaking in. Hill himself testified that he fired in fear, claiming he never heard police identify themselves. Officers disagreed, stating that the team announced loudly before entry. After 3 days of deliberation, a Philadelphia jury found Hill guilty of multiple counts of attempted murder, aggravated assault, and weapons violations. At sentencing that July, Hill, now 41, listened quietly as the judge imposed 120 to 240 years in prison. District Attorney Krasner called the outcome justice that will keep Philadelphia safe. The community's relief was mixed with exhaustion. Streets once marked by shattered glass and bullet holes became symbols of resilience. Krasner later said, "Hill's relentless barrage of bullets terrified an entire neighborhood and nearly took the lives of our officers and residents." From this tragedy, 3 lessons linger. Confrontations escalate fast when weapons outnumber reason, communities depend on trust between law enforcement and citizens, and fear, left unchecked, turns any home into a battlefield. In the end, the Maurice Hill case stands as a stark reminder that one man's gunfire can silence a city and leave echoes that never fade. Before moving on, if this truth hits you, press hype, stand with the forgotten, amplify justice, and make sure silence never buries the voices of the lost. Number 2. Kylan Pratt. He said he loved him. Hours later, he set his body on fire. In February 2022, Philadelphia police uncovered one of the city's most disturbing murder cases, the killing of 20-year-old Nazir Johnson by his secret partner, Kylan Pratt. Both men were young, connected through a hidden relationship that Pratt, who also dated women, was desperate to conceal. Prosecutors later said the motive was rooted in shame and fear of exposure, calling it a hate crime. On the 17th of February 2022, Johnson took an Uber from his West Philadelphia home to Pratt's residence on the 2900 block of Oxford Street. Neighbors remembered the night as silent until a single gunshot broke it. Inside, Pratt shot Johnson once in the neck. Investigators later testified that the killing was immediate, calculated, and followed by a chilling cover-up. Pratt wrapped the body in plastic and tape, loaded it into his vehicle, and drove toward Fairmount Park. There, along a wooded path near Kelly Drive, he set the remains on fire. 3 days later, 2 people walking their dogs stumbled upon a scorched body behind a tree. The remains were burned beyond recognition. DNA analysis was the only way to confirm the victim's identity. Police found the clue that cracked the case, an anonymous tip naming Kylan Pratt. Search warrants followed. Inside Pratt's home, detectives found sections of carpet soaked in blood and patches of wood flooring that had been scrubbed with bleach. A 9mm handgun recovered nearby matched the fatal shot. Phone data placed Pratt at both his house and Fairmount Park that night. Even more disturbing were his Google searches. Traits of a psychopath, having sex with dead bodies, and killing in cold blood. Investigators described the digital evidence as a confession written in keystrokes. Pratt was arrested on June 21, 2022. The trial took place 2 years later. Assistant District Attorney Sidney Pope told jurors, "Make no mistake, this was a hate crime. Pratt killed Nasir because he was gay and wanted to hide it." The defense argued emotional instability, but the forensic trail was overwhelming. On the 27th of September 2024, the jury found Pratt guilty of first-degree murder, abuse of corpse, and tampering with evidence. Judge Giovanni Campbell imposed life imprisonment without parole, followed by 4.5 to 9 additional years. Witnesses described Pratt as silent and stone-faced when the sentence was read, eyes fixed on the floor as the judge declared he would never again walk free. Community leaders condemned the crime as an attack not only on one man but on the LGBTQIA+ community itself. Minister Sultan Hakeem Pitts said, "These murders infect entire communities, their pain lingers far beyond the courtroom. From the ashes of this tragedy rise hard truths: secrecy can become a weapon, shame can kill, and unchecked fear can destroy love itself. Trust your instincts, speak out when you sense danger, and never let silence shield cruelty. Some wounds heal with time. Others, like the fire in Fairmount Park, burn forever in memory." Number 3. Gerly Sanchez Reyes. She came to Philadelphia searching for a new beginning. Instead, her life ended in silence behind a locked apartment door. 21-year-old Eulacy Carolina Torrells Martinez had lived in the city for less than a year. Friends described her as hardworking and optimistic, someone determined to build stability far from home. But on the 2nd of April 2024, her messages stopped. When days passed without contact, 2 friends decided to check her apartment on the 4400 block of Frankfort Avenue. They found her phone, but not her. Fearing the worst, they called the police. Detectives from the Philadelphia Police Department arrived just after midnight on April 5. The apartment looked freshly cleaned, the air filled with the sharp scent of bleach. Officers noticed the futon in the living room seemed heavier than normal. Inside it, wrapped in a shower curtain and trash bags, was Eulacy's body. She had been stabbed multiple times in the neck and torso. Paramedics pronounced her dead at 8:26 that morning. The scene told a story of rage followed by panic, a desperate attempt to hide what had happened. The investigation began immediately. Deputy Commissioner Frank Venor later said, "From the very beginning, it was clear this was not random." Detectives reviewed surveillance footage, spoke to neighbors, and traced Eulacy's last known movements. Their work led to a single name, 28-year-old Gerly Sanchez Reyes. Like Eulacy, she worked as an exotic dancer. The 2 women were last seen together shortly before the murder. Within days, police obtained an arrest warrant for Sanchez Reyes. As the investigation advanced, she fled. By April 12, she was listed as a fugitive. The U.S. Marshals Service joined the manhunt, and a $20,000 reward was announced for information leading to her arrest. For months, detectives followed leads across multiple states and eventually overseas. On the 26th of June 2024, Spanish authorities, acting on U.S. intelligence, arrested Sanchez Reyes in Madrid, 3,700 miles away from Philadelphia. Investigators called the arrest a result of exceptional international coordination. She now awaits extradition to face murder and related charges in Pennsylvania. News of Eulacy's death spread quickly across the city. She was only 21, just starting out in life, said local business owner Angel Cardona, who knew her as a customer. It's mind-blowing that something like this happened. Small vigils formed outside her building, where neighbors left flowers and handwritten notes. For those who knew her, the unanswered question remained: what led to such violence between two women who once shared the same world? Crimes like this remind us that danger can hide in ordinary settings. Stay alert when loved ones go silent. Trust your instincts when something feels off. And remember that safety often depends on paying attention before tragedy strikes. Awareness, communication, and courage save lives. As her accused killer waits in a Spanish cell, Philadelphia still remembers Ulysses, a young woman whose life was taken too soon, and whose story now stands as a warning that no secret stays buried forever. Number 4. Samaya Williams. A New Year's Eve meant for celebration ended instead with a single gunshot inside a quiet apartment lobby. On New Year's Eve, 49-year-old Adrienne Reeves arrived at the Delwyn Apartments in Bala, Sinwood, Lower Merion Township, to spend the evening with his fiancée, Joy Furman. Their relationship had been turbulent, but neighbors said no one expected it to end with gunfire. At around 8:30 p.m., police were first called to the parking lot for a domestic dispute between the couple. Officers reported that the argument was verbal, not violent. Both Reeves and Furman agreed to separate for the night, and Reeves left the area, arranging for his daughter to pick him up nearby. Later that night, Reeves returned with his daughter to retrieve his missing keys. At the same time, Furman had called her mother, Florence, and her daughter, 24-year-old Samaya Williams, asking for help. According to investigators, she told them that Reeves had laid hands on her. The three women met Reeves in the lobby around 9:55 p.m., as shown on surveillance footage. Seconds later, Reeves suddenly collapsed to the ground. Officers responding to the scene found him dead from a single gunshot wound to the head. The surveillance video captured a thin person dressed in black, wearing a hood, leaving the lobby moments after the shooting. Investigators later confirmed that the person's height and build, 5 feet tall, weighing roughly 127 pounds, matched that of Samaya Williams. At the scene, police recovered a single 9mm shell casing. Forensic tests soon determined the bullet had been fired from a Walther handgun, a weapon legally registered to Williams, who also held a valid concealed carry permit. By the 1st of January 2022, an arrest warrant had been issued for Williams, labeling her armed and dangerous. 2 days later, she surrendered voluntarily at the Lower Merion Police Department. Detectives said she was calm, cooperative, and said little beyond confirming her identity. Williams was charged with first-degree murder, third-degree murder, and possessing an instrument of crime. Judge Karen Eisner Zucker denied bail, citing the severity of the charges, and Williams was transferred to the Montgomery County Correctional Facility. A preliminary hearing was scheduled for the 21st of January 2022. The outcome of her trial has not yet been made public. The killing, occurring just minutes before midnight, shocked the Bala Sinwide community. Residents described the incident as deeply unsettling, especially since the building was known for its safety and calm. The district attorney's office emphasized the tragedy as a reminder that domestic tensions, when armed, can turn deadly in seconds. Crimes like this reveal 3 painful lessons. Conflicts escalate fastest when weapons are close. Emotional disputes should never be handled in the heat of the moment. And family members must recognize when arguments cross into danger. Awareness and de-escalation save lives long before police arrive. As fireworks marked the start of a new year outside, one life ended inside the quiet lobby of an apartment building, an irreversible moment. Number 5. Robert Davis. He spent years giving a voice to Philadelphia's most forgotten, until one night, his own story ended in silence. Josh Kruger, a 39-year-old journalist and activist, was shot to death inside his Point Breeze home on the 2nd of October 2023. Known for his powerful writing about homelessness, addiction, and LGBTQ+ rights, Kruger had risen from years of hardship to become a respected figure in local media and city government. He was open about his struggles with addiction and living with HIV, often saying that survival itself made him an advocate. At 1:30 a.m. that Monday, neighbors awoke to gunfire from Kruger's home on the 2300 block of Watkins Street. Police later determined he was shot 7 times, most likely at the base of his staircase. Bleeding heavily, Kruger stumbled outside and collapsed on the sidewalk, where first responders found him. He was pronounced dead at 2:13 a.m. The investigation moved quickly. Surveillance cameras placed a familiar figure near Kruger's home before the shooting, 19-year-old Robert Edmund Davis. Authorities said the two knew each other, and that Kruger had been trying to help the younger man get through life. Evidence retrieved from Kruger's phone revealed extensive communication between them and suggested an intimate relationship. Davis's family later alleged that the relationship began when Robert was 15 and involved both drugs and coercion. They claimed Kruger had threatened to release explicit videos, though police never confirmed this as a motive. An arrest warrant was issued for Davis on October 6, charging him with murder and related offenses. Philadelphia Police Lieutenant Hamilton Marshman urged him to surrender, saying, "It's time to do the right thing." For nearly 3 weeks, Davis evaded arrest before finally turning himself in on October 25. Investigators later tied him to a separate, non-fatal shooting at a SEPTA station, intensifying public scrutiny. When the case reached court in June 2024, Davis, now 20, pleaded guilty to third-degree murder. He was sentenced to 15 to 30 years in prison. During sentencing, he appeared quiet, avoiding eye contact as the judge read the verdict. His mother, Damica Davis, called for the full evidence to be made public, saying that her son's story had been buried under someone else's reputation. Kruger's death sparked widespread mourning among journalists, activists, and officials. District Attorney Larry Krasner said, "Josh deserved to write the ending of his own story." The DA's LGBTQ+ advisory committee described him as a voice for those living on society's edges. Friends and colleagues gathered at candlelight vigils across Advisory, Philadelphia, remembering his compassion and fearless honesty. His murder underscored painful truths, that advocacy can blur into vulnerability, that not every act of help is safe, and that silence around exploitation often protects predators. Recognizing boundaries, seeking professional support, and reporting power imbalances early can prevent tragedies like this. In the end, the man who wrote about survival became the subject of his own cautionary tale, proof that even those who speak for the voiceless can be lost to the quiet violence. Number 6. Jianna Tane Webb. What began as flashing police lights on a Philadelphia highway ended minutes later with 3 lives lost in a single collision. Just after midnight on the 21st of March 2022, 2 Pennsylvania state troopers, Martin Mack III and Brandon Siska, were responding to a pedestrian walking on the southbound lanes of Interstate 95 near Philadelphia's sports complex. The pedestrian was 28-year-old Reyes Rivera Olivares. As the troopers attempted to guide him to safety, a silver SUV traveling at over 100 miles per hour barreled toward them. Behind the wheel was 21-year-old Jianna Tane Webb. Authorities later determined that Webb had been drinking strawberry Henny, a mix of cognac and juice, before getting on the road. Her blood alcohol level was 211%, nearly 3 times Pennsylvania's legal limit. Moments before the crash, she had even been stopped by the same troopers she would later kill. They pulled her over for speeding but released her after receiving a priority call about the pedestrian. Less than 15 minutes later, their lives intersected again, fatally. The impact was catastrophic. Webb's SUV struck the troopers and the pedestrian with such force that it threw all 3 men over the median into the northbound lanes. Witnesses tried to perform CPR, but all were pronounced dead at the scene. Webb's vehicle was destroyed, its airbags deployed, glass scattered across the highway. When officers arrived, she remained at the site, visibly disoriented, her silver car mangled beyond recognition. Investigators quickly pieced together what had happened. Surveillance video captured Webb's car swerving before impact. Her social media posts painted an even darker picture. Weeks earlier, she had written on X, "If you ask me, I'm the best drunk driver ever." Hours before the crash, she posted again, joking about being pulled over for driving 110 in a 50 zone. Charged with 3 counts of third-degree murder, homicide by vehicle while under the influence, and related offenses, Webb was initially held without bail. She appeared in court wearing handcuffs that once belonged to the 2 fallen troopers. After a judge dismissed some charges, prosecutors refiled them, emphasizing that her conduct showed extreme indifference to human life. In November 2023, Webb pleaded guilty to multiple counts, acknowledging responsibility for the deaths. At her sentencing in March 2024, Webb, now 23, stood silent as the judge handed down a sentence of 27.5 to 60 years in prison. Governor Tom Wolf called the crash a heartbreaking tragedy and a stark reminder of the risks officers face every day. Both fallen troopers were organ donors, saving 8 lives and helping more than 100 others through tissue donation. From this tragedy come lessons worth remembering. Never underestimate the devastation a single reckless decision can cause, never drive under the influence of alcohol or ego, and never assume safety on familiar roads. Responsibility behind the wheel is not optional, it's life or death. 3 men dedicated to protecting others died that night. Their sacrifice reminds us that split seconds can separate survival from sorrow forever. Number 7. Raymond Thompson. A quiet Saturday morning in West Philadelphia turned into tragedy when a mother of 6 was found stabbed to death inside a van. 34-year-old Ashley Lockhart was discovered on the 6th of August 2022 inside a gold Honda Odyssey parked along the 5300 block of Chestnut Street. Known for her devotion to her daughters, whom she lovingly called her 6 charms, Lockhart was the victim of a brutal attack carried out by her fiancé, Raymond Thompson, the father of her children. Authorities confirmed that Lockhart had a protection from abuse order against Thompson at the time, but the two were still living together. Surveillance footage captured the moments leading to her death. Thompson was seen leaving the vehicle to enter a nearby convenience store before returning to the van and attacking Lockhart. Investigators later said the assault was frenzied, with multiple stab wounds to her face, neck, and arms. Officers pronounced her dead at the scene just before 8:30 a.m. Prosecutors described the killing as a crime of jealousy. Thompson told detectives he believed she had been unfaithful, a suspicion that spiraled into lethal rage. After the stabbing, Thompson fled to the Kensington neighborhood. There, he reportedly used heroin before contacting police to turn himself in less than an hour later. District Attorney Larry Krasner confirmed his surrender, stating, "The suspect has a lengthy criminal history dating back nearly 2 decades. Records showed prior arrests for aggravated assault and drug-related charges. Thompson was charged with murder and possessing instruments of crime. He was denied bail and remains behind bars awaiting trial." Assistant District Attorney Joanne Pescatore said Lockhart had done the right thing by obtaining a restraining order, but the system failed to protect her when she returned to live with him. The case reignited debate over domestic violence enforcement and the effectiveness of protective orders. In the days that followed, the city mourned. A vigil was held near Chestnut Street, where family and friends released green and white balloons, Lockhart's favorite colors, into the summer sky. The community rallied to support her 6 daughters, ages 5 months to 10 years. A GoFundMe campaign surpassed $54,000 within days, as messages poured in from across the country offering condolences and aid. The Philadelphia District Attorney's Office noted that Lockhart's murder reflected a broader crisis. The city had recorded 189 female homicide victims in 2022, double the number just 4 years earlier. Advocates urged stronger community intervention and better monitoring of domestic abuse cases. From this tragedy, several lessons remain vital. Protective orders save lives only when boundaries are upheld. Early signs of violence control, isolation, threats should never be minimized. And when fear replaces love, seeking help from trusted networks or law enforcement can mean survival. These reminders must echo beyond this case, protecting others before it's too late. Raymond Thompson's surrender ended one story but began another, a painful testament to how love, when mixed with violence and silence, can destroy entire families in a single morning. Number 8. Tylia Garnett and Justin Smith. It began as an ordinary Tuesday, but within hours, a young mother vanished, leaving behind only ashes and unanswered questions. On the 30th of March 2021, 21-year-old Diana Bryce of Lansdowne, Pennsylvania, disappeared after being picked up by her boyfriend, 23-year-old Justin Smith. Bryce was 3 months pregnant with their child and already a devoted mother to her 4-year-old son. That morning, she was last seen at a local laundromat, visibly upset as she folded clothes. When her mother, Betty Cellini, called later that afternoon, Diana promised to stop by the pharmacy before coming home. It was the last time anyone heard her voice. Hours later, Smith's 2018 black Ford Fusion was found torched and abandoned at 59th and Florence Streets in southwest Philadelphia. There was no sign of Diana. Smith claimed they had argued and that she stormed off, but investigators quickly doubted that story. For nearly a week, Bryce's family and police searched desperately. On April 5, their fears were confirmed when her body was found dumped in a wooded lot less than a mile from where the burned car was discovered. She had been shot multiple times in the head. Investigators soon identified Smith as the prime suspect. Surveillance footage revealed his girlfriend's friend, 21-year-old Talia Garnett, buying gasoline and helping Smith transport what appeared to be a heavy object, believed to be Bryce's body, into a vehicle. Authorities say Garnett followed Smith as he set fire to the car, destroying crucial evidence. The FBI's Gun Violence Task Force and Philadelphia police tracked Garnett to Florida, where she was arrested on the 10th of April 2021. During questioning, Garnett admitted she assisted Smith because she feared he would harm her family. Prosecutors argued she went above and beyond to help him escape justice. She pleaded guilty to arson, abuse of a corpse, and hindering apprehension. Judge Rosemarie DeFino sentenced her to 11.5 to 23 months in prison and 5 years probation, stating, "She let him get away. She needs to go to jail." Justin Smith, meanwhile, vanished. He remains a wanted fugitive, armed and dangerous. The FBI has offered a $25,000 reward for his capture, and Philadelphia police added another $20,000. Authorities believe he may be hiding in Delaware, Georgia, or Florida's Little Haiti community. The heartbreak for Bryce's family endures. Her mother told reporters through tears, "My grandson kisses her urn every morning and asks if his mommy is coming home." Superintendent Timothy Bernhardt of Upper Darby Police called the case tragic and senseless, emphasizing that 2 lives were lost to one man's violence. This case reminds us that danger often hides behind familiarity. Signs of control, isolation, or threats must never be ignored. Helping someone cover a crime, out of fear or loyalty, can destroy multiple lives. And when love turns violent, silence only deepens the wound. A mother, an unborn child, and a family were torn apart that day. Justice may be delayed, but it cannot remain hidden forever. Number 9, Amin Hurst. A single gunshot on Christmas Eve would ignite one of Philadelphia's most shocking and violent crime sprees. The suspect, later identified as Amin Hurst, was charged as an adult for 4 separate murders committed between December 2020 and March 2021. Each crime carried its own brutality, and together, they painted a picture of calculated violence and chaos that left investigators racing to keep up. The first victim, 20-year-old Daewoo Scruggs, was gunned down while live-streaming on social media. Less than 3 months later, on the 11th of March 2021, Hurst was linked to a quadruple shooting that left 2 people, 24-year-old Naquan Smith and Tamir Brown, dead, while 2 others were critically injured. Police used social media evidence and witness accounts to tie Hurst to the attack. But the most shocking killing occurred 1 week later, just outside the Curran from Holt Correctional Facility. 20-year-old Rodney Hargrove had just been released from custody after his father posted bail. As he waited for his family near a SEPTA bus stop, a vehicle approached. Hargrove, sensing danger, ran back toward the prison grounds, past an open gate that should have been guarded. The vehicle followed, and within seconds, Hargrove was shot dead just feet from the entrance. Investigators later determined that the shooting was likely a case of mistaken identity, with Hurst believed to have been inside the pursuing car. Police arrested Hurst 2 days later. The evidence linking him to the killings included ballistic matches and online activity pointing to his involvement. The Philadelphia Police Department called him an extremely dangerous individual, warning that his actions showed no regard for human life. Yet, even after his arrest, the story didn't end. In May 2023, while awaiting trial, Hurst and another inmate, Nasser Grant, staged a dramatic escape from the Philadelphia Industrial Correctional Center. Surveillance footage showed them cutting through a fence in the recreation yard, using sheets to cover barbed wire. They vanished into the night, and for nearly 19 hours, prison officials didn't realize they were gone. When the truth emerged, the fallout was immediate. Mayor Jim Kenney condemned the failure, saying, "I'm furious. This should never have happened." The system completely broke down. The U.S. Marshals Service launched a citywide manhunt. Grant was captured 4 days later, disguised in full female clothing. Hearst remained on the run for 10 days until authorities tracked him to a house in southwest Philadelphia, where he was arrested without resistance. In November 2024, Hearst was sentenced to 55 to 110 years in prison for his role in the 4 killings. The families of the victims expressed both grief and relief. "We may have lost on March 18, said Hargrove's cousin, but today we gained justice. From this case emerge hard lessons about vigilance and accountability. Never underestimate the danger of unchecked violence, never ignore system failures, and never let complacency weaken security measures meant to save lives. A chain is only as strong as its weakest link, and in this story, every broken link came at the cost of a life." Number 10. Padge Winslow. She called herself the Michelangelo of buttocks, but what she created was death, not art. Padge Victoria Winslow, known on stage as the Black Madam, was once a self-proclaimed entrepreneur, performer, and underground cosmetic specialist in Philadelphia. To her clients, she promised beauty and confidence through low-cost silicone injections. To prosecutors, she was a fraud who turned hotel rooms into operating tables and left a trail of destruction. On the 7th of February 2011, 20-year-old London student and dancer Claudia Aderotimi traveled to Philadelphia with friends for a second round of injections. They met Winslow at a Hampton Inn in southwest Philadelphia, where she carried out the illegal procedure using industrial-grade silicone poured from a water bottle. To close the wounds, she used crazy glue and cotton balls. Minutes later, Aderotimi began complaining of chest pain. Rather than call for medical help, Winslow fled the scene. The young woman was rushed to a hospital, where doctors found that the silicone had traveled to her lungs and brain. She died days later of a pulmonary embolism. Investigators discovered that Winslow had no medical license and no formal training. She claimed she learned her technique from doctors overseas and had performed the same procedure for years. Her arrest in 2012 revealed the scale of her operation: hundreds of clients, multiple aliases, and a stockpile of medical tools and fake identification. Prosecutors said she continued offering injections even after Aderotimi's death, describing her behavior as arrogant and profit-driven. When she finally stood trial in 2015, Winslow defended herself by saying, "I thought I knew what I was doing." Her attorney argued she never meant harm, that she believed she was helping people feel beautiful. But prosecutors countered that her disregard for human life was unmistakable. Assistant District Attorney Bridget Kern told the jury she preyed on people who didn't know better and treated their bodies like experiments. After deliberating, the jury found her guilty of third-degree murder, aggravated assault, and unauthorized medical practice. During sentencing, Judge Rose Marie DeFino Nastasi told her, "You resumed these deadly procedures after killing a young woman. That is magical thinking and narcissism." Winslow was sentenced to 10 to 20 years in prison, plus 6 years of probation. She handed out flyers in prison, advertising a memorial walk in the victim's name, a move the judge called disturbingly self-serving. The case sent shockwaves through both the cosmetic and LGBTQ+ communities, exposing the dangers of black market beauty procedures. Health officials warned that illegal silicone injections could lead to respiratory failure, strokes, or death. The Philadelphia District Attorney's Office called the conviction a milestone in holding underground practitioners accountable. From this tragedy come urgent reminders: real medical expertise cannot be replaced by imitation, beauty should never be sought at the price of safety, and quick fixes often carry lifelong costs. Aderotimi's dream of self-confidence ended in a motel room with a syringe of poison. And for Winslow, the price of deception was measured not in dollars, but in years behind bars. Each case reminds us that behind every headline lies a family, a name, a life stolen by choice, impulse, or obsession. But the darkness isn't over. More hidden truths, more untold murders, and more shocking confessions still wait to be uncovered. And if you're drawn to the pursuit of justice, the unraveling of mystery, and the stories that others are too afraid to tell, subscribe now to Justice Reversed and turn on the notification bell so you never miss the next deep dive into America's most chilling true crimes.